Bună dimineața și bun găsit la VU. Sunt Sabina Iusub și vă invit să rămâneți alături de mine în următoarea jumătate de oră. O să învățăm împreună tot ce se schimbă aici la nivel european în zona digitală. Today, here with me in the European Parliament in Strasbourg is Rene Repasi. Thank you so much for your presence.
Thank you.
We will discuss about the things that are changing here at the European level regarding the digital market, the digital services. You are actually implementing a whole new legislation for this market. Let's explain a little bit what's going to happen in the near future.
Yeah. Now, the situation is we have digital markets that do not work properly. We have so-called gatekeepers, big tech companies, we all know them, Facebook, Amazon, etc. And they are controlling access to their markets, they are dominating those markets, and they write the rules for those markets. An unacceptable situation, Wild West. And we wanted to change that. The tools that we currently have, they don't work. Competition law, they don't respect, data protection is not properly enforced. So we wanted to change that. With the Digital Markets Act, we did that. And first of all, I think something that should be mentioned is the so-called Interoperability Obligation that we will introduce, meaning you can have your account when it comes to messenger service on, let's say, Signal, Viber or some of those, and still communicate with people on WhatsApp without being on WhatsApp. Advantage is you do not have to sell your soul, meaning your personal data, to WhatsApp by your general conditions, but remain with better operators and simply communicate with anybody else. The second one I want to mention is enforcement, because that is the most important thing. They can get fines, but Apple, for example, in the Netherlands, they didn't care about fines. They kept the business model and kept paying fines. Now we include the possibility for the Commission to adopt so-called structural remedies, and that means they can prevent them to buy any competitors for a certain period of time and even break them up. So they can tell Alphabet that they have to sell Google off, or they can tell Meta that they have to separate Instagram and Facebook. That's tough. That's painful. So therefore it will change behavior of those companies.
When will this actually happen, the change?
The situation is we vote today on the Parliament side. The Council will vote on his side in September. Then we are going to have publication of official journal. It will enter into force round about November. From that moment on, the European Commission starts to check which companies are actually gatekeepers, because they have to decide which companies are actually in the scope of the Digital Markets Act. And we estimate that at latest in the beginning of 24, we will have fully fledged application of the new rules.
What should the member states do till then and after that moment of implementation?
Now, member states actually don't have too much to do in here. It's a regulation, so it doesn't require implementation. It is directly applicable. For the big ones, it's the European Commission that acts. In the sister law, so the Digital Service Act, there also the national supervisory authorities have a role to play. They have to develop standards in a so-called regulatory dialogue with companies, but also only the smaller ones. Once we are the bigger ones, the so-called very large online platforms, it is also the Commission that acts. So what member states have to do, they have to enter into dialogue with companies established there that are online operators, but besides they have to particularly discuss with the Commission which standards they will apply.
What will be the most difficult thing to be done in the near future, in your opinion? I know there are a lot, but let's try to explain one or two.
Yeah, Naya, honestly, the biggest problem is that we are speaking here about digital markets, about technology questions that is easy to call. You have to check the algorithm, but that requires that you understand what is the algorithm. And these are, pages of code. I don't understand, don't know whether you understand it, but there are many also in the current authorities that have no clue. So it requires to get understanding how that works. It requires getting people on board that understand what is done there. So we need to have the experts to actually be able to implement all this. And that's going to be the biggest challenge, that we make us strong to enforce the rules that we have now presented.
What will be the impact of the new legislation on those who are actually working in this market, in the digital market in general, that are offering digital services? What will they do?
they have to change their behavior. Certainly the big ones, because there's a big set of obligations that they currently do not follow. And if they want to stay on the European market, they have to follow those rules. So they have to prepare this, like opening up messenger services for interoperability, like allowing that default settings can be uninstalled, meaning you have free choice which web browser you take, or something highly annoying, we all know it. We have a phone, there are pre-installed apps, we cannot get rid of them. They must implement this, that we can get rid of them. They have to stop self-preferencing. So when you are in the Google App Store, for example, then not all Google apps are up, or those that are paying money to Google, but that it is a fair algorithm that is implemented. These are just some of the examples. Another element is that they have to change advertising in industry, because so-called targeted advertising for minors is prohibited. Targeted advertising based on sensitive data like sexual orientation, religious beliefs, etc. They also may not be used anymore for targeted advertising, and that requires a lot of changes on the side of digital market operators.
But for example, the target advertising is learned in schools, in universities, in order to help a company to achieve those who are to be achieved by it. So how are the things going to be tackled in this area? Okay, I can understand the sensitive areas, let's say, like kids or things like this. But what about the others?
The thing is that
it's a way of doing business, actually.
Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely. And the thing is also we do not prohibit any kind of targeted advertising. We simply do not want to have it based on particular data. And the issue is, of course, the thing that we want to tackle is profiling. So collecting all those data from us, I don't know what they have about me. Probably if I know, I would be quite surprised what they know about me, which I actually do not want to have them to know, but they have it. And the problem is that they use all this data to make targeted advertising. So in that sense, we want to prevent that they use parts of the profiles that they have already collected and that they should not collect in the future to do this targeted advertising. But besides, the business model as such remains untouched. But we do not want to have this profiling based on things that are highly personal.
Is Digital Market Act and Digital Service Act like an earthquake for this market, actually?
Definitely, absolutely. Earthquake is, I think, a very good picture here. And you see this also like how Facebook, etc., they invested more and more and more into lobbying because they saw it just doesn't change since December 2020 that it was entered. They created things like shadow lobbying, so there's some pseudo small and medium-sized enterprises associations to tell how rules should be changed in favor of Facebook. It just didn't work. So you see that they are highly nervous about what comes out. They didn't succeed in getting it watered down, and so it's serious business. Therefore, it is an earthquake.
Is there anything to be changed in the next period? And I'm asking this due to the lobbying that you've underlined, due to the main idea that nobody actually wants to do the change?
So, do you mean things that have to be changed in the current legislation, or?
Yeah. Do you think they will still try to be lobbying around and try to change something from this moment on in order to stop this huge earthquake, or to reduce its power?
No, there's not. In that sense, there's not much that they can do in order to stop it. We will have it as a law. But you're right, there are two sets of obligations, the pretty straightforward ones in the law and the others where the Commission or national authorities have to give more flesh, more guidance to it. They are discussing that with the industry in this regulatory dialogue. So here there will be certainly new efforts at technical level to water it down, where we have to pay very good attention what is happening there. We need NGOs telling us, guys, this is going wrong. We need to hold the Commission permanently to account, because this is going to happen. And of course, afterwards, whenever there will be decisions, it will go to court. They will pay the best lawyers in town, although they are highly overpaid, but it doesn't matter. The best lawyers in town in order to attack what is decided and trying then to have a last round in front of courts to water it down. So there will be multiple attempts to do something about it, certainly.
I have also to be devil's advocate and ask you, are you sure that this is the right way to do it, to have the digital market planned as you've mentioned?
I'm convinced that this is the right way. I mean, otherwise I also wouldn't be sitting here. But what we do see is we basically let digital markets develop according to the so-called invisible hand of the free markets in the last 20 years. What we see is markets that are not working. If there are small, innovative competitors, they have no chance to grow because they get just bought by the big ones. They can decide to let financial service operators easily enter the app stores, but then create an own financial service app and kill them. So what we do see is market is simply not working there. And if market is failing, we need to help markets to be restored to work properly again. And that's what we are doing. We're not planifying. We are restoring the markets so that they can work properly.
Thank you so much for this discussion.
My pleasure.
We will focus now on Romania.